Hello, babblers. Hello. I'm so flippin'. Is this recording? Yes, it's recording. I'm so flippin' excited to be here today with you guys. I don't know what's going on with this braid, but I don't have time to I'm kind of in a rush. It's Christmas Eve. To those that celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas. Happy Yule, Happy Winter Solstice, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Holidays. I'm so happy to be back here on Babblings. Oh, but I was like, Jesus Christ, what's going on with this little. Okay, you guys are gonna be like, what? Like, you wouldn't probably notice this until I'm like, what is this bump? Why won't it go down? Okay, that's a little better. I don't know. TBD. That's my new I go through like phrases and I don't even like do it on purpose. I just inherently every 6 months kind of switch out phrases that I use really commonly, and right now we're on TBD. So, TBD, you guys, TBD. Everything is like TBD. We will see. It's kind of like a running joke right now, but yeah, just if you keep hearing me say TBD, ignore it. But I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. Welcome back to Babblings. This episode about aging. I had this completely outlined. I was like ready to go in November. And then right before Thanksgiving, I got really sick and ended up just like staying home for Thanksgiving, and I like couldn't talk. I was like losing my voice, so I just couldn't record with no voice. And I was like, okay, we'll move it to December. And then last week I was in my luteal phase, which I am going to do better about really like planning my month around my menstrual cycle. I know some people are like, Ellie, like, we don't care. But like, it is really true. Like, there's like 2 weeks where it's like, I'm exhausted. It's so hard. Like, I'm moody. It's hard to do everything. Like, I'm breaking out. And it's like, okay, those are 2 weeks where I don't really want to be on camera. One, I don't really want to be talking a lot. Like, I usually record this like 2 hours max. And then, it gets cut down from there. But I was just like, I cannot put myself on camera and talk for 2 hours. Like, I just can't do it. So that's why this aging podcast didn't come out last week like it was supposed to. But, we live and we learn. And, babblings is, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not sporadic. It's just, babblings is very like off the cuff. Babblings is organized chaos. It comes out every Friday what you're going to get. TBD. TBD. I have an idea in my brain. Which, if you didn't read the last Babblings report, this is my first time that I've really like organized the Babblings report in the specific way, and then I'm going to be doing going forward. I did like an overview of like what I had planned for the month, so I always have a plan. Whether I stick to the plan, TBD. Because sometimes I'm just like in a different mood and I get struck by inspiration or something that I've been working on for a long time. I'm like, I get the inspiration to finish and I'm like, oh, I actually want to put that out, or things get rearranged, yada, 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 yada. Subject to change, but I can at least give you an idea of like kind of an idea of what you're going to kind of get for the month. Balance report is also different now too, because there is a monthly energy read that I've included. There is a movie for the month in every Babblings report that is your homework to watch for the month, and then just more like kind of like mini topical articles for the month, and updates to Babblings, especially website updates, because babblings.net is live. Oh my gosh. When last time I recorded a podcast, it wasn't live. Babblings.net is live. I've been really like overwhelmed and just very happy with all of the love that I've gotten for it, especially from people that like I really admire and that are inspire me and are doing similar things. And it's like, it's one thing for your family and friends or just like people that enjoy what you do to tell you good job or to recognize what you did or to enjoy something that you worked on. And then it's another thing to like have like your real peers and people that inspire you and that you think are, like, way cooler than you, think what you're doing is really cool. It's just really affirming, and Babblings this next iteration of Babblings, I'm really excited about. I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm excited to see the growth. It's definitely been a learning curve moving from Substack, and I knew it would be. I knew there would be a, like, drop off. I knew that that would change things, but it's all part of the process. And I'm so happy to be on babblings.net, and to just like see what the future holds. My last Babblings Ramblings was about how I hate resolutions. And I'm not a big New Year's girl because, like living with the seasons and the astrological calendar, the new year is when spring comes and winter ends, and that's like in late March. But I do say, and I said this um in my blog post, I do think that because sometimes people are like, oh, time is a construct, da 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 da. Yeah, and we could get into that shit all day, like, obviously. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't use the tools that we have or find a way to use them to our benefit. Having a day broken down to 24 hours and 60 minutes and 60 seconds to a minute, that helps our lives run smoothly. It helps us regulate ourselves. It helps us stick to routines, and it helps us like show up for people that count on us. Having the year broken down into 12 months helps us divide up time into manageable chunks to track goals and to track interests and hobbies and projects, and to see, like how long things take us, or whatever. And I love quarters. I get really into Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 when I was in real estate, because everyone's like, oh, it's Q1, oh, it's Q2. And you track your business milestones through the quarters. But I find that dividing up the 12 months into 4 quarters is another way to kind of like chunk up and divide up time to track, like I said, goals and plans and things like that. I am excited for 2026. I'm excited for what things will bring with Babblings. I'm excited about how confident I feel in it, and I hope that you stick around with me. I've been talking for 10 minutes. If you're watching this on video, I know the quality is a little less. I'm just using my computer camera. I didn't feel like setting up my phone and connecting and doing all of that. And lately I've just been feeling, I mean, Battlings is already not like this high caliber professional setup. But I don't know, there's something about like feeling like I'm on FaceTime with you guys that just feels a little bit more intimate and not doing the whole shebang. I don't know, I just like this more. I almost want to like record in photo booth and have like the birds or the hearts above my head. Like, I'm just liking how more intimate this feels, sitting on the floor talking to the camera, and it's like we're FaceTiming. Let's get into current events. Now, like I said, I literally outlined this in November. And so also the current events that I have are from the week that I was supposed to record. And I was gonna pull out new things, but like, I don't know. I feel like the things that I had outlined were still topical, and there's just always so much going on. Like, it's so hard to it's like exhausting to feel like you have to constantly pick and choose where you're putting your attention and your focus and your energy. And, the things that I had outlined before are still like important things. So like, let's still talk about it. One of the first things that like we need to talk about, and I know it's like coming on through the news cycle, but the Pantone color of the year, Cloud Dancer. I mean, it's white. And one, I just think now I know there are different shades of every color and da 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 da. But Cloud Dancer, let's just like say white. Let's just say white. That the color of the year is white. And some people may be like, well, yeah, it's a color. Like, why is that a big deal? But it is just another indicator of how conservatism and white nationalism just continues to trickle down into everyday things, into fashion and into pop culture, into diets, into social media, and now Pantone color of the year is white, and I just don't think that that's a coincidence. It's similar to how we're seeing this sort of surgence in fashion of very, like, conservative dresses and modest clothing, and I saw this TikTok of this girl, she was like, "I was at the airport and I was in line and I saw this woman and she was wearing this, like, gorgeous long dress, long sleeves, like, what you see in the magazines now, and it looked so beautifully made, and I loved the color and the fabric looked so nice, and I was gonna ask her once we got through security where she got her dress from. And then I saw her husband come get in line with her, and he had a long beard and a straw hat, and I was like, "Oh, they're Mennonite." She probably made her own dress. And it's like, yes, everything you guys think is, like, fashionable and trendy now is what the Mennonites and the Mormons wear. Homesteading content is getting really enmeshed and blurred with trad wife content. All of a sudden, everybody's celibate. And listen, I have abstained from sex for, like, a while now, but not out of some, like, moral purity or, like, body purity bullshit, but out of needing to, like, reframe where I'm putting my sexual energy and who I'm allowing to share that energy with bad and unhealthy situations that I was, like, putting myself in and watching myself, like, repeat this pattern. It wasn't out of moral superiority. And now the color of the year from Pantone is white, which you just can't ignore, and you can't say that it's not connected to the ultra conservative and religious and white culture that is being pressed upon us. And it's so blatant that there is a level of deniability because it is so blatant, because it's so obvious, that companies like this can get away with being like, "No, no, it's Cloud Dancer. What are you talking about? We didn't do that on purpose. Like, why would we do that? That'd be so obvious if we did it." And it is. And it's just like dog whistles for the white nationalists, just like the Sydney Sweeney jean ad. Like, in the same year that Sydney Sweeney is doing an ad all about how she has good genes and how genes are passed down, da 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 da. The Pantone color of the year is white. Like, no, those aren't coincidences. And once again, it's all connected. Welcome to Conspiracy Corner with Allie. I had also outlined, because right before I was going to record this episode, the theme for the Met Gala came out. And kind of like in the same vein of what I was talking about, of like this trickle down effect into pop culture and into fashion. Let me put my glasses on so I can read, because these are real glasses. Not to be mean, but I hate when people wear fake glasses. Not you don't need glasses. Like, do something else. Anyways. But yeah, the Met Gala theme came out, and also that it's being sponsored by Jeff and Lauren Bezos, which also, remember, there were rumors over the summer that they're buying Vogue. I still think that that's something happening covertly with Condé Nast. I don't know, conspiracy corner, but I'm just saying. And now they're sponsoring the Met Gala. So that tells you, right? So if they're sponsoring it, that means like they're paying for it. When you're paying for things, you have, especially that amount of money for that big of a publicity event, you have control over who's invited. You have control over how things look, how things are presented in the media. And what I think people don't realize is when you have that much power and you have that much money, and you're making sure that this thing is happening, and it probably wouldn't happen without these dollars, right? Because Vogue is dying and museums are dying, and like we need to put money into the arts and like whatever. It also changes the way that the exhibit is then presented and the dress code. So the exhibit that's gonna be in the Costume Institute at the Met is called Costume Art. I have a quote here that says, "The title Costume Art refers to the history of the Costume Institute," said Andrew Bolton, the Costume Institute's curator, who selects each year's theme at a press conference. Fashion, he explained, has the status of art because of and not in spite of its relation to the body. So I was reading like into this, right? And so like the exhibit itself is going to be about costuming as an art form, design as an art form, then how that also relates to the body and how fashion is designed, or costuming and fashion is clearly designed around the body. And then you have Jeff Bezos and Lauren Bezos sponsoring the event, but I think they also put a lot of money into the Costume Institute. So their narrative, the bodies they're going to want represented in this costume art exhibit, and that will then, inform the theme for the red carpet, and discussion around the exhibit, is white bodies, and I saw a lot of people excited about this, and I don't get excited about the Met Gala because it just gives real Hunger Game vibes, which we cannot even get into the tribute games. We can't even get, like, I can't even, one young man and one young, I can't even get into it, you guys. It's, what did I say? It's just gonna get scurrier and scurrier. But the Met Gala itself, without the president's, oh wait, no, it's the Patriot Games, whatever. Without even that, it already gives Hunger Games vibes, because we have, the ultra rich, the ultra wealthy, the ultra famous coming in these extravagant, costumes and fashion and designs, and it's all to really just show off for themselves. And especially pretty much every year there's always people protesting, and I think that could be a big conversation about where is the line with fashion, where it's, art that we need to encourage and endorse because we do need to celebrate the arts. But then where does it also become just consumerism and a way to display wealth and a way to differentiate yourself from the different classes? That's a whole other conversation. That's another conversation. Hold on, I need some chapstick. So that was all very interesting, and we will see on the first Monday in May how this all turns out with Jeff and Lauren. And it's also like, who are they inviting? It's deep. But it was funny because literally, I think it was the day or the day after, or the day before, within 3 days, within 3 days' time, the costume exhibit theme came out, but also news reported that the Met employees were petitioning the National Labor Board to form a union for about 1,000 Met workers. And according to the UAW, workers cite long-term pay inequities, lack of job protection, and ever-increasing workloads as reasons for the unionization efforts. Allison Clark, the collections manager, stated, "The Met is an amazing place. I've worked here almost 20 years and I love it. However, the museum often makes decisions without considering our health and other benefits. Right now, we're contending with several large-scale capital projects that displace people and create a lot of additional work for the staff. Unionizing is the only way for us to have a strong collective voice to address concerns from the museum." Once again, dystopian to see, Jeff and Lauren putting millions of dollars into the Costume Institute, while at the same time, Met employees are trying to fight for better working conditions, better benefits, and also just for like their voice to be heard at their workplace. And it is a stark reminder how, like many Gilded Ages before, there is such an increasingly large gap between the upstairs and the downstairs, between the glitz and the glam and the facade, and the people that are like actually in, day out, making it happen, making it work, putting all of these things together. I'm sure there are like AI things that they're combating, being understaffed, not having good health benefits. At a certain point, your love for the art, your love for the museum, your love for the community can't outweigh the disservice, um, that is happening to you and the way that you're being treated and the way that you're undervalued at one of the most prestigious places in the world. And like these things, like the exhibit and the Met Gala, would not be good without the people that are sewing for the designers, without the people that are curating things for the exhibit, without the people that are going in and building the installations in order to house what they're trying to display. None of that happens without all of these other people, without the custodian that cleans, without, the admin that tracks expenses, like there's so much more that goes into just like the glitz and the glam of things. And if the Met is able to unionize, which the vote is scheduled for January 13th and 15th, so in a couple of weeks, which is why I also thought it was still timely to talk about. But if the vote goes through and they're able to unionize, they will be the largest unionized museum in the country. And I think it will be really important to see how this goes because it will set a precedent, and it will set a precedent of how we move forward. And museums are one of the last places where we're able to go to view and observe and indulge in art and history. For our national museums to already be under attack, to already be in the process of being censored, I think it's going to be really important for what happens with the Met, for the future of how we, you know, are censored in museums, and how they're able to not only be taken care of as a workforce, but then also, I think a part of this is fighting for the right to put up real history and not be censored while doing it, and also to not be punished for not doing what the president of the United States wants you to do, or what Lauren and Jeff Bezos want you to do. Also, in current events, I linked for you guys some video and an article by Nazreen Malik on The Guardian just about what's happening in Sudan. She's Sudanese and talks a lot about like what's really happening. And I feel like the more that I've educated myself on it, it's already devastating, but the more you educate yourself on it, I think the more devastating it gets. And it's just another look at how propaganda and media are used to change the narrative of conflict and war and genocide, especially in places like Africa. So I just wanted to link those for you guys for you to do a deep dive. I feel like I'm trying to do better at letting people speak for their own culture, for their own homeland. I could spit facts to you, but I think it's really important to listen to people's lived experiences, listen to people who are deeply, you know, not invested, because obviously, like, I'm invested too, but are just more educated and more knowledgeable on the nuance and what's really happening. Their boots are on the ground. Those are linked below, and I highly recommend that you check those out because there is not, contrary to what some popular media would want you to believe, there's not a civil war going on in Sudan. There is a genocide, a cleansing that is happening, and it's being paid for by the UAE and other people that also have their hands in the cookie jar or in the honey pot, because it's all about resources and it's all about money, and it's all about removing people that are in your way, even though that's their homeland and they're just normal people. So I started this idea of the main topic that I wanted to talk about because I saw Kris Jenner at her 70th birthday party with her new facelift. And I was like, oh my God, she's a robot. It's like Valley of the Dolls. Like, what is happening here? This is kind of like freaking me out. And then I was just thinking, like, why are we so afraid of aging? I see so many people my age or younger in their 20s, even like 18-year-olds getting lip filler and Botox and doing all of these like cosmetic procedures in order to stay looking younger, which you don't. You look like you're 35, but that's another conversation for another day. All these anti-aging products that are sold to us, and now kids have skincare lines, and it's like, what is this obsession with, one, not wanting to age, and two, not wanting to look like you're aging? What is that? I feel like maybe I'm the opposite because I really enjoy getting older. I'm looking forward to being able to continue to grow and learn and evolve, and I feel like I get more confident with age. I feel like I get more self-assured with age. I feel like I get clearer on who I am with age, and I know that that will just continue. I feel so blessed to age too. I feel so blessed to grow old. I did experience a lot of death in my life starting at the age 10 and through 18, 19. A lot of death, and have to remind myself sometimes, like, that that's not normal. Like, most people don't experience that much death so young, and I feel like that's really informed also how I think about aging, where, I'm not afraid of dying, and that has took on different variations and has looked differently and has meant different things throughout my life, but it is consistent that I'm not afraid of dying, which also translates to not being afraid to age. I'm not afraid to age, and I'm not afraid to live my life, and I see it as a blessing because I've seen so many people, die young. My brother, dying when he was 16, my grandma dying when she was 54. I mean, that's like young, and my aunts dying young, my step grandpa dying young. Like, I know so many people that didn't reach their prime. And actually, 2 years ago, or no, not the summer that just happened, but the summer before, my great grandma died. She was, in her 90s, and it was the first time that I experienced a death that made sense. Like, she was ready to go. She was ready to move on. She lived her life. She buried her daughter, my grandma. She buried her husband. She buried all of her siblings. She buried her parents. She buried her friends. Like, she was like the last one living of her like high school class. Like, she gave so much to us and we were able to lean on her so much, but she was exhausted, and it really was time to go. And I've never experienced a death like that where I felt so like at peace with it, because it was her time and it was meant to be, and she lived her life, and she had this blessing of, living into her 90s. And I don't know if I hope to live that long. I hope to have that impact. I hope to have that legacy, and I hope to get to meet my great grandchildren. I was just thinking the other day, I was watching this TikTok video of this lady who reminded me of my great grandma, and she was just telling her grandkids and her kids how grateful she was and the lessons she learned, and how it's just about being happy and enjoying yourself. And I started crying because I'll cry now too. Oh my god, I hate when I've gotten so emotional as I've gotten older. I was like, I can't wait to be able to do that one day. And then it like broke my heart, because I know, like, if I'm there, then that means so many people that I lean on now and need in my life now will be gone, and like, just think about my grandma and like how hard that is, to be the only one left. Like, to have no one truly know you anymore. Oh my god, this was not at all what this episode was about, but it's like, I know her, but nobody knows you like your parents know you, or like your friends that you grew up with know you. Nobody, or like your siblings, like nobody knows you like that. Like, your great grandkids love you, your grandkids love you, your kids love you, but they don't like know you, and then it like walk alongside you through all of your trials and tribulations. Anyways, my point of saying all of that was how it made me excited, how I got emotional thinking about one day that'll be me, and I can't wait to have lived a full life because I know that I will, because I already have lived such a beautiful life. And to be able to impart that wisdom, because it truly does take, and I've always been, people have always said like I'm wise for my age, I'm mature for my age, and I do feel like an old soul, and I'm not saying that you have to be a certain age in order to have a certain level of wisdom or to have a certain level of respectability. But I am saying, like, but it does take time to really understand time. Whoa. Whoa. But I just mean, like, it takes time and it takes living and it takes living through experiences in order to really understand other people's experiences and to understand life and to understand how fast time moves, and but also how slow. And so I just embrace aging. And it's like, why is everyone so afraid of it? I find it so exciting. I find it so exhilarating to be able to, to like live life and to like learn more and to become more confident, and to have and to gain more people and to gain more experiences. Like, I'm like, bring it on. I'm gonna be 28 in a couple months, which is really funny. But I'm like, yeah, bring on 28, bring on 29. Like, I can't wait to be 30. I'm also not afraid of like laugh line, smile lines or wrinkles, because like I'm a laugher and I want you to know that I've laughed. I want you to know that, I think there is something to aging gracefully and like taking care of yourself. I think like taking care of yourself to age gracefully is different than being like anti-aging and doing everything you can to like not look anything whatsoever close to your actual age. And part of that is like just like embracing your hair as it grays, embracing wrinkles, embracing your body changing, because like that's just like what happens as we change. So I went on this journey and to discover and to figure out, why are we so afraid of aging? And an article by the University of Liverpool states, for the first time in human history, we have entered an era in which reaching old age is taken for granted. Unlike in ages past, when living to an older age was a luxury afforded mainly to the privileged, globally around 79% of women and 70% of men can expect to reach the age of 65 and beyond. A UK study surveyed around 3,000 people to investigate their attitudes toward aging and scale their fear of aging. The study reports, with a mean fear score of 62.5%, the results show that fear of old age is a significant factor in many people's lives. It is a cause of great anxiety amongst people not only in their 60s and 70s, but even more so in their 30s and 40s. In 2024, one poll surveyed 2,000 Americans, and it revealed that 56% of young adults between the ages of 18 and 24 years old are afraid of getting older, compared to only 21% of older adults aged 77 or older. And I think that first quote is a big root of the problem. It is so taken for granted now that we are able to age and that we are even able to age gracefully. I don't like consistently go with, respect your elders, or just because they're your elder, they deserve like implicit, respect. But there is something to this loss of respect for people who have aged, because it's so common and it's like a given, and it's like, we're gonna live and we're gonna die and whatever, and like 50 is middle aged instead of being 30 being middle aged. And somewhere along the way, instead of aging and getting older being this signifier of wisdom and a life earned, and that there being reverence for people as they age, it's now burdensome to age or to take care of someone who's aging, or to age, and it's no longer something to look forward to, but it's something to fear. And 56% of young adults between the age of 18 and 24 are afraid of aging or afraid of getting old. It's like, oh my God, we haven't even scratched the surface. of life and of experiences. Not saying that you haven't had experiences. God knows I've had almost all the experiences in the world, but that's not the end. There's always more to discover, and there's always more to experience. And one of the main fears about aging is losing attractiveness. And so not only is aging, just taken for granted now and is no longer a privilege, we've also become our society is so obsessed with image because we have mirrors everywhere and cameras everywhere and we're constantly putting ourselves online, and everybody's obsessed with how they look. And a big fear about aging is the fear of losing attractiveness. And I, have a lot of things to feel or to say about that, because what is being attractive and what is attractiveness, and what are social beauty, like what are beauty norms and the social standard for beauty, and that's just deeply steeped in white supremacy and erasure of culture and all of these other things. And it's like, what even is attractiveness, and why is being old not attractive, and why is being young and childlike attractive? Like, that's weird. Why is like looking like a teenage girl, the hottest that you could ever be? Attractiveness is also just so deeply steeped in the patriarchy and in misogyny and being, and I don't want to get into pedophilia, but I just feel like it's so intrinsic in our culture that we don't even, and we don't even realize it, and how normalized fetishizing young women or men have become. Yahoo Finance reports that the global cosmetic surgery market size reached $35.86 billion in 2024 and is expected to reach $73.9 billion by 2033. North America accounted for 40.7% of the global cosmetic surgery market in 2024. And I think this is important because it's always important to follow the money. It's always important to understand what people have to gain by projecting a certain image or convincing you of a certain idea. So, convincing you that you need to have Botox, you need to have surgery, you need to have all of these things done in order to look young. So, we're going to advertise it, we're going to shove it down your throats, we're going to shove it down through pop culture and subliminal messaging over hundreds of years. And so you feel so much fear of aging that you're going to put all of this money into not looking your age, which I tend to think, like, if you're under 50 doing any sort of like facelift or Botox or whatever, I feel really ages you and doesn't de-age you. That's just what I have to say. I mean, look at these youthful. Look at this. Look at this. Never seen Botox, never seen filler. Probably won't ever, because I mean, I don't have the money to do that, but also, like, why would I do that? Like, hello. Hello. Hello, baby fat keeps you young. Like, let's be real. Let's be real. I feel like I look younger than a 22-year-old filled with filler and Botox. I'm just saying. That's just my tea. And like I was saying, it's important to follow the money because none of this is real. It is a construct that you are being sold in order for people to make money. This is a $40 billion industry, which is crazy. An article from Psychology Today notes the concerns are reinforced by companies such as in advertising and social media, and also in the anti-aging industry, which generate $1 trillion together of profits, in part by denigrating aging and creating a fear around aging. Hello, this is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying. It's all manufactured to make you scared so that you buy more retinol cream. And I'm not hating retinol. I actually really like retinol. It really helps my acne. But, like, you don't need like 50. And if you don't, like, it's not gonna, okay, whatever. You get what I'm saying. And like I said, this construct is done in marketing, in magazines, it's in social media, it's in pop culture, it's in television, it's in movies, it's in our the way that we talk and slang and slang, like, in all of these things. A study was done in the UK to find out stereotypes of different ages, and the top 10 descriptors of older adults in the UK were frail, infirm, housebound, dementing, long stay, disabled, spinster, aging, childless, and vulnerable. And there were 6 times as many negative descriptors as positive ones. And this is what I'm saying. In the media, they're using words like spinster, like housebound, like frail, vulnerable to scare us from our future. Who wants to be frail? Who wants to be vulnerable? Who wants to be housebound? Everybody wants mobility and freedom and the ability to live their life to the fullest capacity that they can. And the thing is, even in old age, you can do that. Studies show that many of these fears, like, okay, so the main fears around aging, like I said, loss of attractiveness, but also the fear of aging is really a fear of death. It's the fear of unknown. It's the fear of losing loved ones. It's the fear of losing your independence. It's the fear of cognitive decline. But studies show that in general, many of these fears are unfounded. Many people in their 70s and older have found that their creativity has increased, that they become happier and more generative with age. An article on ageism states that while it is true that the risk of some chronic diseases and dementia increases with age, most older adults maintain quite good health and cognitive functioning. And the same article states that those who have more negative feelings about getting older are more likely to experience higher levels of stress, which has been linked to many diseases of aging. Also, people who feel fatalistic about getting older may be less likely to engage in healthy behaviors, such as staying active and taking prescribed medications. And that's the circle, and that's the cycle, and that's the prophecy fulfilled, right? If you're so afraid of aging, you don't like, it gets you so stressed out, it gets you so worked up, you do all of these surgeries and you put all these things in your body that maybe you shouldn't in order to avoid aging. Maybe it's going to cause those same fears to actually come true, which if you would have maybe just experienced life as it is, gone with it, not been so scared of it, you're less likely to experience those fears that you have. That's just like science. And again, many people really ultimately are afraid of death. And I think that, a big part of that is how, especially in like America, in like Western societies, we view death, right? We view it as such somber, as the end, as bleakness. And yes, it's emotional. Yes, it's sad. Yes, there's grief. Yes, there's mourning. But if we kind of reframe the way that we view death, because it's inevitable, the day you're born is the day you start dying. And that is just the cycle of life. And if we could just embrace it, we could release ourselves from these fears that drive us to the grave either way. And we could enjoy life and we could find that peaceful ending, like I did with my great grandma, where she lived her life and she was fulfilled and she gave back and she's leaving a legacy. And obviously it's sad. Obviously it's emotional. No, like you don't want to lose that person. You want that person in your life. But it is the cycle of life, and it happened how it was meant to happen. Depending on circumstances, death does not have to be like as traumatic as it is, I don't think. But because we've conditioned ourselves to take aging for granted and to take life for granted and to feel like we're able to escape the cycle of life through science and products and all of this different stuff, it does make that final blow, I think, a lot harder to swallow, because many of us, I think and convince ourselves that we can stay off death, and we just can't. And also, dying and aging are not the same things, right? Like you don't like die because you're getting old. Like you die from a disease, or you die from being sick, or you like a chronic illness, or something happens and like you get hit by a truck. But like That's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, like, the process of decline, of dying, like, if you've ever seen someone go through cancer, like, that process of, like, being eaten up and eaten away by a disease is not the same as getting older. Aging is not a disease, and if we could look at that differently, if we could really reframe that, I think we could be less afraid. And the other reason I think too is, like, people are afraid of this loss of independence or being left alone because of how we treat older people. And I'm talking specifically about the United States, but like how we treat people as they age as a burden. Like, it's a burden to take care of someone as they age. It's a burden to have them around when, it was probably a burden for them to take care of you all of your life, and I feel like we do you get to a certain age, and like actresses talk about this all the time. You hit a certain age and you're tossed aside and you can only get this one type of like motherly elderly role, right? And we do that in real life too. You get a certain age and you just kind of get tossed aside, and people start talking to you in baby talk and start thinking like we have all of these preconceived notions of what it means to get older, when really, like, people are, unless that they have, dementia or something else going on, they're still like cognitively like there. You don't like, "Oh my gosh, how are you?" Like, why are we talking to older people in a baby voice? Like, and I've been culprit to that too, of, it's like you get to a certain age and you're not useful to society anymore, and that's just not true, because like I said, age can teach us so much. We live through all of these lived experiences, and like, wisdom is so important and is so productive to our society and is something that we desperately need, are people speaking out about their experiences and how history repeats itself, and how, like, I talked a lot to my great grandmother about just like growing up in the Great Depression. And then when COVID happened, and she was talking about how people lined up to get vaccines when they came out, because it was so, like, just seeing that, like, the dichotomy of all of that going on with the COVID vaccines, like, it's so important to listen to people's experiences and listen to their history. I think sometimes, even when you maybe don't agree with it, I think it's just really important to understand people's perspectives. And that is not something that is useless. And it's definitely something that, like, is productive for our society, which I find also funny, because I feel like everyone wants to be a guru. Everyone wants to be a wise woman. Everyone wants to be, a leader and come from this place of like deep wisdom and knowledge and whatever. And yet you don't wanna look old. Just like how I've talked in my fast you can't manufacture style episode, I was talking about fast fashion and people buying bags and then beating them up so that the bags looked used. Like, you wanna look young, but also have the aesthetic of wisdom or of age or of lived experiences. People want, things instantly, like wisdom or respect or whatever, and you have to live through it. You want a journal that looks used, you have to, like, use it. You want a bag that looks worn in and, like, you carry it everywhere and you throw it in, you wanna be Jane Birkin, you have to use the bag. And that could take years and that could take time. You don't just get like immediate like reverence and or like the ability to speak on other people's lived experiences, you know? So, yeah. I was just like, why is everyone so afraid of aging? And then it was like, everyone's afraid of dying and they're afraid of not being attractive and they're afraid of being discarded. And all of those things that are fears, that are the underlying fears of aging, are all constructs of our society to spend more money, to not listen to people that have actual lived experience and actual wisdom, and to keep us in this cycle of constantly trying to have our cake and eat it too, I guess. I don't know. Well, I really, 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 really have to go. Yeah, I really, really have to go. I should have left 20 minutes ago. Okay. Well, God bless. You know, I say that in a very secular way, not a religious way. God bless. TBD when you'll see my face again. Happy holidays. If you are traveling, I wish you safe travels. Maybe you could listen to this while you're on the plane if you want. Check out babblings.net. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and share. It really helps me, and I am so excited to see what is in store for Babblings in 2026. So I will see you in 2026. Bye.